In the unyielding wilds where the sun scorches and shadows stretch long, an extraordinary and haunting spectacle unfolds, one that shatters the myth of nature's flawless grandeur. Behold the white lion, a ghostly sentinel of the plains, its pale fur stark against a canvas of earthy browns and greens. But this is no noble emblem of purity. Rather, it is a living, breathing tableau of decay and relentless biological warfare. A grotesque barnacle wound, festering and bristling with parasitic life, dominates its flank. 1,000 tiny horrors clustered like a morbid crown of thorns. This is not just a wound. It is a macabre ecosystem, a dark symphony of infestation and survival. At first glance, the barnacles, those uncouth crustaceans, cling to the white lion's skin with an almost clinical precision. Their jagged shells pierce into tissue, embedding themselves as unwelcome anchors. The wound exudes a slick mixture of pus, blood, and sloughed-off skin cells, an open invitation to an army of insidious parasites. Little writhing maggots slip beneath the surface, feasting on necrotic flesh, while microscopic organisms swarm in the moist crevices, egg-laying and breeding unchecked. The lion's once pristine coat bears the discolored scars of this invasion, thickened and cracked by repeated trauma and infection. This barnacle wound, horrifying as it appears, serves as a gateway to a deeper infestation. Flies are drawn irresistibly to the damaged flesh, laying their eggs amidst the festering tissue. These larvae grow quickly, their segmented bodies white and glistening, inching under the epidermis with hideous intent. Parasites from various families, botflies, screwworms, and others, exhibit a cruel preference for such weakened tissue, accelerating the lion's degradation. Soft tissues liquefy slowly under the onslaught. Muscles dissolve, exposing raw nerve endings and blood vessels, intensifying the animal's suffering in ways unseen to the casual observer. Beneath this devastating surface, the white lion's immune system wages a desperate battle against the invaders, sending waves of white blood cells to engulf and neutralize the parasites. But the sheer scale of infestation overwhelms these defenses, turning this biological battlefield into a no. In the shadowed depths of a dense forest or the silent, dusty plains where the wild prowls free, there exists a brutal and unyielding struggle. A struggle not just for survival against hunger or rival predators, but from insidious invaders far smaller and more grotesque than any visible foe. Picture now a magnificent leopard, a creature of stealth and grace, slowed and seized by a fate far worse than a wound from claws or bullets. This leopard lies hidden beneath leaves and branches, its tawny coat marred not just by the scars of battles, but by a horrific cocoon wound. A grotesque mass of fibrous silk wrapping chunks of living flesh, where parasites have taken residence in a way that seems almost nightmarish. This cocoon, swollen and pulsating, is no ordinary injury. It is a multidimensional theater of life and death, crafted by parasites, organisms born to exploit others in the cruelest fashion imaginable. These invaders, often botfly larvae or other dipteran maggots, hatch stealthily on the leopard skin, their eggs laid stealthily in the seams of fur or open wounds. The larvae burrow beneath the surface, feeding on the host tissue, causing the body to react by forming a protective cocoon of silk-like threads. Over days and weeks, this gruesome fortress enlarges, deforming the skin, stretching the flesh into a swollen, living pouch ripe with mites, pus, and writhing young parasites. The visual is almost unbearable. The cocoon becomes a grotesque sack, shiny and wet, slick with intermittent drips of infected fluid that reveal the slow decay within. The leopard, once a master of agility and strength, limps, slows, and often falls into wilderness obscurity, concealed by its own suffering. The parasite's toxic saliva and secretions promote tissue necrosis, turning flesh into an unrecognizable mass, while the animal's immune system rallies a desperate fight that only thickens the thick cocoon walls, isolating the invader yet simultaneously enclosing. In the quiet folds of a forgotten meadow, a haunting sight arrests the eye. An alabaster stallion, majestic once, now scarred by a gruesome horror. Across its velvety white flank sprawls a grotesque lattice of lesions, pulsing and swollen, a hive of twisting necrosis that seems to breathe with malignant life. This is no ordinary wound, but the ravaging artifact of an unholy infestation. Bees, not as buzzing pollinators of life, but as agents of torment embedded deep within living flesh. What you are about to witness is nature's dark irony, a white horse, emblematic of purity, ensnared in a macabre dance with insects, whose stings have birthed a festering hive, choking its veins and turning skin into a grotesque mosaic of pain and decay. The bee infestation here is a shocking perversion of biological roles. These bees, drawn perhaps by pheromones or the sick sweet odors of infected skin, have taken up residence in an open wound, transforming the site into a sorcerous hive. Instead of gathering nectar, they harvest agony, their tiny barbed stingers anchoring them to the horse's vulva. In the dim twilight of the rainforest, shadows shift and breathe with an unsettling life. Amidst the silent jungle, a jaguar moves, an embodiment of raw strength and lethal grace, yet marred by a horror unseen at first glance. Across its sleek golden fur, a festering wound splits the flesh, an open sore weeping dark, viscous fluid. Nestled within this gory cradle are the parasites, creeping, writhing, ravenous. This is no ordinary injury. It is a theater of infestation, a grotesque banquet where tiny invaders feast upon the flesh of one of nature's most formidable predators. The jaguar, Panthera onca, is renowned for its robust health and silent prowess, a master of stealth and the apex hunter in its domain. Yet despite its strength, it is not immune to the sinister world of parasites, those microscopic marauders that exploit hosts with brutal efficiency. This jaguar suffers not just from the mechanical tearing of claws or teeth, but from the insidious colonization by parasitic worms, larvae, and biting insects. Entering through wounds or natural orifices, these parasites burrow beneath the skin, consuming tissues, blood, and even vital organs, turning a wild power into a suffering, limping shadow of itself. A particularly vile offender in this story is the botfly larva. The female botfly, attracted by the jaguar's warmth and scent, deposits eggs near its fur or around wounds. The larvae hatch and embed themselves under the skin, creating painful, swollen pockets called warbles. These grotesque nodules pulse and move, alive with putrid life, eliciting inflammation and infection in the surrounding tissues. The jaguar, unable to effectively reach the larvae, suffers a prolonged agony as its wound widens, discharges a foul-smelling pus, and attracts flies and other opportunistic parasites. Often, secondary bacterial infections compound the misery, turning the area into a necrotic wasteland of decay. On a microscopic scale, even more sinister parasites lurk, ticks attached to the jaguar's skin, drilling their mouthparts into its flesh. In the shadowy underbelly of the wild, where the sun's fierce glare rarely softens the rawness of life and death, a leopard prowls with a grievous burden upon its body. At first glance, one might expect sleek beauty and silent power, but here, the beast's skin tells a darker tale. The grotesque, swollen mass clings to its flank, an unnatural hive of parasitic cocoons, morbid and pulsating, like a sinister garden of horrors grafted onto its flesh. This is no ordinary wound. It is a living fortress of infestation, a macabre testament to nature's unforgiving cycle, and the secret war waged beneath the surface of the wild's majestic facade. The parasite-conceived cocoon hive is a multi-layered nightmare that begins with a sinister intrusion. Tiny larvae, hatched from eggs deposited by a cunning insect, burrow beneath the leopard's hide. The initial puncture seems minor, a faint prick or scratch imperceptible against the vastness of the leopard's muscular body. Yet, once inside, these larvae ignite their sinister design. They spin silk-like threads, weaving intricate cocoons that tether them to the host's flesh, creating a pulsating colony that feeds on the animal's vitality. These cocoons are not merely shelters. They are the larva's incubators, insulated thickets where they undergo transformation, shielded from the outside world by the very tissues meant to protect the leopard. The carnage beneath the skin is gruesome. Flesh necrotizes as toxins ooze from the invading larvae, and the immune system fights a relentless, losing battle. Swelling, inflammation, and open sores mark the surface, revealing a puzzle of broken skin, ragged tissue, and tangled cocoons that resemble a sickly honeycomb of death. The leopard's instinctual grooming rituals are rendered useless. Its claws cannot reach inside the hive, and any attempt to remove the parasites only exacerbates the wound, driving the larvae deeper. The infection forms a centipede. In the dense shadows of an unyielding jungle, a lone monkey becomes the unwitting host to a grotesque spectacle of nature's darker side. This creature's flesh is marred by a horrific parasite hive, a pulsating torment festering beneath its fur. Imagine a cratered battlefield of tiny invaders burrowing ceaselessly, each parasite carving out a hideaway at the expense of the monkey's very flesh. The wound is not merely a gash, it's a throbbing mosaic of life and death, where larvae squirm under toughened skin, creating a sickening display of inflammation, pus, and decay. Every inch oozes with the mingled scent of rot and living tissue, a sinister environment shaped by nature's relentless struggle for survival. Parasite infestation in this context is a terrifying complex of biology and brutality. These parasites, often microscopic to a few millimeters long, exploit every vulnerable pore. They latch onto the host's blood or burrow into muscle and skin layers